Good afternoon. My name is Tyler Simpson, and I'm sitting here at Hillside Park in Andover, New Jersey. So this park was formerly known as Camp Nordland, which was a Nazi propaganda camp that promoted Nazi ideology. In this video, I will be going over the history of the camp in the Bund, the public perception of the camp, and how it was ultimately shut down in 1941. So Camp Nordland was founded here July 18th, 1937 in Andover Township, Sussex County, New Jersey. The property was purchased by the Amerika Deutsche Volksbund, famously known as the German-American Bund in the United States. The Bund was established for all intents and practical purposes, the American section of the Nazi Party of Germany. So the Bund supported Chancellor Adolf Hitler of Germany and embraced the ideology of the Nazi Party. This group's purpose was to unite German Americans and gain support for the Nazi Party's causes within the United States. Camp Nordland was a strategic base for the Bund, giving its proximity to New York City on the east and Philadelphia on the south. Despite the popularity amongst the camp, Camp Nordland was ultimately raided and shut down by local and state officials due to violated laws and accusations. That being said, the state and local governments were justified in their shutdown of Camp Nordland, even with the right of freedom of speech and assemblement. The German-American Bund was founded in 1933. The organization is rooted to the Teutonia Society, which was founded in 1924 in Chicago, Illinois, and it aligned with the Nazi Party's ideology. From 1933 to 1937, the Bund would hold rallies in New Jersey and New York, which often resulted in clashes between Bund members and counter-protesters. One event in Newark, New Jersey, resulted in a clash between 800 Bund members and around 1,000 protesters, who reportedly threw stench bombs into the window of Newark's Schwaben Hall. This event needed nearly 200 police officers to control the conflict and caught the attention of many members of the New Jersey legislature. This led to the introduction of the Assembly Bill 272 by John Rafferty and Samuel Pearson. The bill was originally written in order to prevent hate groups from flooding New Jersey with Nazi propaganda and hateful speech. The Rafferty Bill was ultimately passed in 1935, which stated that in any way of any part thereof incites, counsels, promotes, or advocated hatred, violence, or hostility against any group or group of persons residing or being in the state by reason of race, religion, or manner of worship. In 1936, the Bund was recognized by the local, state, and federal government. The Bund had a meeting in Buffalo, New York in March of 1936, where the name's Friends of New Germany was officially changed to the Amerika Deutsche Volksbund, officially recognizing the organization as the German-American Bund. The Bund changed their messaging to align with the goal to combat communism and the Jewish militia carriers and inhabitants. At this meeting, Fritz Kuhn, a former Freikorps member and chemist for the Ford Motor Company, was voted to be the Führer of the Bund. According to an article titled Fascism in America by the Liberty Digest, Kuhn claimed that the German-American Bund had over 200,000 members nationwide. Kuhn was believed to be close friends with Adolf Hitler and accepted money from the Nazi Party to continue promoting propaganda to the United States. In 1937, Camp Nordland was founded here in Andover, New Jersey. The camp is 204 acres and held enough land to fit over 300 campers. The site charged young boys and girls $5 per week to stay within the camp and learn the Nazi ideology. Camp Nordland's popularity brought in thousands of visitors in its opening weekend, where participants drank beer, learned to write speeches, and engaged in Nazi marches and salutes. 2 days after the grand opening, protests began to arise by Representative Samuel Dickinson, the American Legion, and also veteran foreign wearers post in New Jersey. In August of 1939, members of the Ku Klux Klan and the Italian Blackshirts visited the camp as well and engaged in marches for their own. Camp Nordland's opening struck a nerve within the United States congressional halls. In January of 1937, Congressman Samuel Dickinson introduced a resolution that investigated all un-American activities within the United States, which included Camp Nordland. He claimed that the geographic location of Camp Nordland was oddly close to an ammunition dump and a power plant, which raised concerns. It was also noted by New Jersey Congressman Parnell Thomas that New Jersey State Senator William Dolan helped aid the Bund in purchasing Camp Nordland's property and aided the Andover Township Committee in supplying the camp with a liquor license. The opening weekend festivities were led by the New Jersey Bund leader August Clapra and Dr. Salvatore Caridi, the leader of the Black Shirt Union City Italian War veterans. The opening ceremonies involved the flying of the Nazi flag, marching in a German-inspired fashion, and highlighting a photograph of Adolf Hitler. This further attracted local and national attention to the Bund's activities. On November 19, 1937, Judge J. Wallace Leiden of Bergen County publicly stated that he would deny citizenship to anyone applying who were members of the Bund. He believed that by engaging in the Bund's activities and ideology, members were not acting within the loyalty of the United States. This resulted in a Bund rally in Hackensack, New Jersey, where Bund members attacked Leiden's character. Due to the negative attention the town was receiving, the Andover Township Committee imposed a $500 licensing fee for any organization that had shooting galleries, to which Camp Nordland was the only one. This fee was unusually overpriced and was the first major legal maneuver that was designed to attack Nordland. The attractions within Nordland included the Nazi ideology, ceremonies and uniforms, and its large selection of beer. The New Jersey legislature passed an amendment in 1939 that aimed to directly charge the Bund for promoting hateful ideology and propaganda concerning race, color, or religious backgrounds. This new amendment made it illegal to appear in public in any uniform that is similar to the military of another state, nation, or government that is outside of the United States. Camp Nordland was further struck financially when Andover Township decided not to renew the camp's liquor license. This was due to August Clapperot's violation of the Rafferty hate law in the 1939 amendment that banned foreign uniforms from being publicly displayed. So how the local residents felt. So when Camp Nordland was first opened, the townspeople of Andover Township were pretty fond of them. The group's presence brought in tourism, which profited local businesses. The opening weekend brought in over 10,000 German Americans to the small town of Andover, which had a population of 479 people in 1937. The flooding of people to Andover brought tons of business to local shops, but especially for the Aryan-owned businesses. The Bund was so popular that the Andover Fire Department offered a raffle off a car, or sold over 1,500 tickets. The increasing cash flows from the Camp Nordland's visitors helped establish a good reputation with the townspeople. This all started to dwindle down, though, once the Andover residents learned the true meaning behind the German-American Bund. There were a large number of visitors to Camp Nordland once it was up and running. Many of the campers during the week were children, but on weekends they were accompanied by adults. There was one occasion where nearly 8,000 people were in attendance at the camp at once. Once the Bund was settled in Camp Nordland, their organization began to publicly promote violence, denounce the Jewish race, and print President FDR's New Deal as the Jew Deal. The local residents started to take account of the messages being promoted from the Bund, and word quickly spread. The local and state newspapers reported on these actions and warned organizers that their actions were in violation of New Jersey law, which made it illegal to promote hatred and hostility based on race. Due to the press coverage, the Bund started to hide their publicity and began delivering speeches in German to avoid having listeners understand the rhetoric being preached. Despite the public knowledge of the Bund's wrongdoings, Camp Nordland still hosted massive gatherings, especially on the weekends. These events would have children in Nazi apparel marching in rhythm similar to that of the Hitler Youth in Germany. When asked about this organization, Fritz Kuhn, the leader of the German-American Bund, stated, "Our camp is designed principally to be a place which breathes the spirit of New Germany, where young people shall be strengthened and confirmed in the National Socialism, so that they will be conscious of the role to which have been assigned to them the future carriers of the German radical ideas to America." In 1939, Germany already annexed the Sudetenland, Austria, and the rest of Czechoslovakia. Every day, there was an increased American opposition to Hitler and the Nazi Party. The downfall of Camp Nordland and the Bund. By 1940, Kuhn was convicted of grand larceny, and he was caught stealing nearly $15,000 from the Bund's fund and was sent to prison in New York State. At this time, attendance at Camp Nordland was at an all-time low. Uniforms and highlighting photographs of Adolf Hitler were forbidden by New Jersey law, and the camp's liquor license was revoked. Denton Quick, the sheriff of Sussex County, ordered an investigation into the camp along with the Dice Committee. The sheriff and Dice Committee were worried that Bund members would look to sabotage local defense plans through the order of head Nazi members. This resulted in Sheriff Quick writing down the license plate of Bund members and sending their names to the defense plans to check. On July 4th, 1940, Sheriff Quick arrested several Bund leaders to the camp and issued warrants for the arrest of many leaders. The leaders were charged due to a violation of the anti-uniform laws and hate laws that were recently issued through the Rafferty Bill and the 1939 Anti-Hate Amendment. On September 12, 1940, there was a massive explosion at Hercules Power Plant in Kenville, Morris County. This explosion cost the lives of 42 people, and local authorities assumed the Bund was responsible for this act. The next day, Sheriff Quick and his fellow police officers raided Camp Nordland and arrested 10 Bund members, including Clapperot and William V. Keegan, the Bund's attorney. The raid resulted in the confiscation of several collections of anti-Semitic literature and a rifle that had a telescope lens attached. One Andover Township Committee member stated, I'm mightily afraid that the good citizens of Sussex County would have taken the law into their own hands and gone in there with clubs." On June 3rd, 1941, the New Jersey State Legislature repealed the German-American Bund Auxiliaries Charter and ordered them to get rid of their property. This was requested by Attorney General David Willits, who warned the Bund that its charter was in danger and that a raid was coming in the near future. Shortly after, Camp Nordland was raided by Sheriff Quick and a group of local American Legion members, which ultimately closed down the camp for good. Despite an effort by the Bund to transfer ownership to 217 individual Bund members, the property was seized by the state of New Jersey. Months before the United States entered World War I, the local, state, and federal governments continued their attacks on the Bund. The Selective Service Act of 1940 prohibited Bund members from being hired by any defense industry and were barred from WPA employment. Any Bund member or enthusiasts of Nazi ideology were fired and replaced. Many of these members lost their jobs during this period, and the Bund's corporate standing and property ceased to exist in New Jersey and much of New York. The FBI conducted a raid on the homes of former Bund members and sympathizers, where Klaplot and nearly 30 other supporters were seized of their firearms, German currency, and a number of shortwave radio sets. The group was gathered together to celebrate Adolf Hitler's birthday. And during World War II, many Bund members were charged by the federal government. Many well-known Bund leaders, including Klaproth, Coons, Lupke, and Fitting, were charged for violating the Alien Registration and Selective Service Acts. They were convicted in 1942, but their convictions were reversed in the United States Supreme Court case Keegan v. United States. Today, the property that used to be Camp Nordland is Hillside Park in Andover, New Jersey. The park is now used for outdoor recreational activities, including basketball, Little League baseball, and a playground for children to play. The remaining buildings are now rented out for events and parties. Behind me is the main hall, where meetings would be held. Fritz Kuhn and other top Bund members held official meetings within these quarters. Within this building contained ammunition, German currency, photographs of Adolf Hitler, and a massive swastika on the ceiling. There are multiple photographs of the interior of this hall where Sheriff Quick and his group of American Legion representatives raided Camp Nordland. The fields behind me are where events would take place, including marches, rallies, and weekend events that would bring in thousands of German Americans, black shirts, and Ku Klux Klan members to embrace a nationalistic viewpoint and condemn Roosevelt, Jews, and other ethnic groups within the United States and around the world. Here in the woods that borders Kittatinny State Park are the remains of a former barrack. These barracks would house youth campers who stayed overnight at Camp Nordland. The barracks would house 8 to 12 students at a time and were spread out across the campus. The remains of this building can be found near one of the Little League fields within Hillside Park. The state and local government were justified in their shutdown of Camp Nordland, despite the right to freedom of speech and assemblement. Local residents and the state government were quick to realize the true intentions of the German-American Bund and decided to take action rather than to witness the continual growth of an organization that has been funded by the Nazi Party. The New Jersey State Legislature was quick to see the increased influence of Germany's Nazi Party within the United States and enacted the Rafferty Law and eventually the Anti-Uniform Amendment of 1939. These laws were specifically put in place to target and combat the hateful ideology that was being produced within Camp Nordland. Claiming that they had over 200,000 members, the local, state, and federal government did all they legally could to eliminate the threat that came from Camp Nordland and other Bund camps and gatherings within New Jersey. When Andover Township decided not to renew the camp's liquor license in 1940, the downfall of Nordland was imminent. The camp had little funding, declining membership, and a negative reputation within the community. Nordland was in violation of the Rafferty Law, the Anti-Uniform Amendment in 1939, and illegal distribution of alcohol, justifying the raid and shutdown by Sheriff Quick.